Thanks for listening to the Lunch and Learn with Dr. Barry, here to help educate, motivate, and put you on the right path to take control of your health through weekly discussions on topics in the medical field, public health arena, and in your community. And now your host, Dr. Barry.
And welcome to another episode of the Lunch and Learn with Dr. Barry. I'm your host, Dr. Barry Pierre, your favorite board-certified internist, founder of drbarrypierre.com, as well as the CEO of Pierre Medical Consulting, helping you empower yourself for better health with the #1 podcast for patient advocacy, affirmation, as well as education. This week, I get to bring you a special episode with my mentee, Dr. Brooke Williams, who is a third-year medical resident out of Chicago, Illinois currently, but she's going to be going back to her home state of North Carolina. Dr. Williams has developed a passion for bringing awareness to physician burnout as well as mental health awareness. She has a philosophy, I too am a minority, which helps promote multicultural awareness in graduate medical education by supporting the principles of increasing cultural competency, reducing racial health disparities, and advocating for increased representation and underrepresented minorities, right? So this is going to be an amazing episode, guys. Again, I've talked a lot about mentorship and really the importance of mentorship. Those who have been, following me from the beginning know that I wouldn't have started on the journey that I've been, and it really got to the level that I've gotten to without my coach. Shout out to you, Dr. Dre, who helped kind of open my eyes, remove the blinders off me and help, take me out of the box that I used to put myself in. So I always make it a point to be able to reach back and, give any support I can, especially to people who I know are working hard and wanting to kind of get to where I get to, right? So Dr. Williams is going to be an amazing discussion today. And what we're going to do today is we're actually going to have one of our mentor-mentee sessions. You're right. We're actually going to go through what we typically go through when we meet and have a discussion and kind of talk about, everything Dr. Williams related. So I can't wait for you guys to get a chance to kind of listen in on our conversation. Again, this isn't a scripted one where we're going to say stuff that we wouldn't say on our typical calls, right? We're going to actually kind of break down the process that I typically go through when I'm working with her, when I'm, kind of getting into her business and trying to get her to that next level. Because again, she doesn't have much longer to go, depending on when you listen to this. And she's going to be an attending soon. And there's a lot of responsibilities that come when you become an attending. So I'm trying to mentally get her ready and prepared for that. Like always, if you have not had a chance, make sure to subscribe to the podcast. Give me a 5-star review. If you are watching me right now on YouTube, shout out to my YouTube subscribers and appreciate all of your love and support. Make sure you subscribe. Give me the thumbs up as well. Throw a comment, say, hey, I'm watching on YouTube under the comment, just so I know everything is going well on that side. So with further ado, get ready for another amazing episode here on the Lunch and Learn with Dr. Barry. This episode is brought to you by the Lunch and Learn Community Store, where we are living out the motto, empower yourself for better health. In the Lunch and Learn Community Store, you can get your favorite t-shirts, ebooks, as well as other related products by Dr. Barry. Head over to shop.drpiersblog.com and get a chance to get 10% off your first purchase by using the coupon code EMPOWER10. Again, shop.drpiersblog.com. Live out the motto, empower yourself for better health. All right, Lunch and Learn community, you just heard another amazing introduction from one of my mentees, right? It's actually the first time I've had a mentee on the podcast. And I thought it was important, guys. I preach the importance of having a mentee and the need for a mentee. So why not have one of my own? And we're actually going to kind of go through our own session to kind of get a deep dive of, kind of what's going on. We're going to get into our business with Dr. Williams. Again, Dr. Williams, thank you for coming on the show today.
Of course. Thank you, Dr. Pierre, for having me. I'm so excited to, share our personal sessions so many people can learn about, how mentorship is, why it's so important, and, how to actually have a mentee and vice versa, how a mentee should treat their mentor. So
most
really
important. I love it. And I love it because a lot of times, especially when I talk to, people who are looking for mentors, a lot of times the mentees always think like it's this one-sided situation where they got to kind of give their all to the mentor. But like I said, it's kind of a two-way street, right? Like if your mentor isn't giving into you as much as you're giving into them, right? Like that relationship is never going to be good. And so, and again, right. Dr. Williams does not have that problem. So we have no issues. No issues of concern.
No, we don't.
So I gave a little bit of your bio into the introduction, but there's people who always skip the introduction. They get right to the main episode. So Dr. Williams or Dr. Brooke, however you want to be called, right? And I do this all the time, especially for my physician friends. I'll call them by the first name. I'll call them by the last name. However is more comfortable to you, we'll do it that way.
Yeah, first name is fine.
Yes, Doctor. So with Dr. Brooke, right? Because we got to keep the doctor. We got to show that level of importance. So give someone, something that they may not have caught in your bio that they say, they're going to walk away and say, oh, you know what? I think I know who Dr. Brooke is.
Well, of course, mentorship is important to me. That's kind of like already established because we're doing this podcast, but particularly I like to be a mentor myself. I actually started a nonprofit in Chicago, my second year of residency, which was a huge undertaking. Shout out to my co-founder, Dr. Desiree Leach. She was definitely a main reason as to how we spearheaded this project. So basically, we just have a nonprofit that helps increase minority awareness and increasing underrepresentation within medicine and STEM. Dr. Leach actually has her PhD. She works at Northwestern. So 2 Black females coming together, one on each side of medicine, and just wanting to kind of give back to the community, specifically with the Chicago public school system, and just mentoring kids, really allowing for kids to see how important it is to see someone like them. And the crazy thing is I actually had a dinner with a few of my mentees at my hospital last week, and I kind of had like this aha moment. One is a neurologist, 2 of them are gastroenterologists, and I used to be interested in GI, but I have to be completely honest, in med school, I hated neurology. I think most people dread that course. But when I did the rotation with her in December, and, this is 3rd year, and for anyone listening, neurology has its own residency. So you don't, go through it traditionally through internal medicine. And Dr. Pierre, I don't know if your residents go through it or not, but honestly, like I felt like someone who, I guess how people look at me as like, oh my God, I want to be that one day. But I'm a 3rd year resident. I was like, you know what? Like if I would have seen her and actually got to be with her, I would consider neurology. And I think a lot of that has to do with like seeing someone who looks like me and who can, stand her ground. She has her PhD and MD, and she is, all the way put together. And it really does make a difference. And, unfortunately in this world, there are a lot of biases that we all encounter, but it definitely does help when you get to see someone who's able to carry themselves out and who you could one day hope to see yourself look like as well. So again, I did not like neurology as a student, but when I did this, rotation as a 3rd year resident, I was like, well, maybe I should have given neurology, a chance. So, that just goes to show that everyone's watching you, no matter how big or small you think you are. You definitely are influential to people around you. So,
and the reason why I love that is because I think a lot of times we don't understand, especially when we're kind of in our motion. That's the level of importance of modeling is, right? And I think especially when you're a mentee or your mentor, right? Either way, understanding that the way you walk, the way you carry yourself can really influence someone's whole trajectory, whole life. And I remember I was an undergrad. I remember I was an undergrad. I was kind of wandering aimlessly at Florida State. Like I was telling everybody I was going to be a doctor. I had no clue whatsoever how to be a doctor. And especially when I think about it, I was like, oh, it's crazy that I'm actually a doctor today, because I had no clue about an MCAT test. I had no clue about study. I just figured by the time I graduate, I just apply somewhere and then someone kind of accepts me. And I remember,
right.
it was crazy. I remember I was in a career center. And I told the career person there, I was like, oh yeah, she was like, what do you want to do? I was like, oh, I want to be a doctor. I was like, oh, well, are you a part of this organization and that organization, that organization? And I had no clue the organization she was naming. And I was like, oh, okay, all right. Clearly, I am definitely a step behind where I need to be. And she, thankfully, shout out to you, Miss Anderson. She took me under her wings and she said, like, no, you're going to be a part of, I need you to be a part of this organization, which happened to be MAPS, which is kind of a student organization for Student National Medical Association, which I've talked about on this podcast before, is hands down the best organization ever. That's probably all bias, right? But I truly believe if not for Miss Anderson, not for MAPS, not for SNMA, I would not be standing in front of you today, right? So I definitely carry that mantle, kind of moving forward. And then, like you said, when you talk about career choices, like I remember when I first started at medical school, and I was like, I don't know, I knew I wanted to do some type of clinic or outpatient medicine or something. And I started hanging around a lot more people, especially in internal medicine. And, especially one of my mentees, mentors, who we're definitely going to talk about in a couple of minutes. He was a huge factor, probably like 95% of the reason why I became an internist in general, right? Because just seeing how he would carry himself during conversations, just how crazy smart he was, I was like, oh, like if I could be anyone like this guy, Dr. Hasty, shout out to you, Dr. Hasty, like I'd be good. Like if I could just be like 70%, I didn't even need to be the full 100. If I could be like 70%, I'd be good if I was around Dr. Hasty's level, right? So definitely having that modeling mentorship is so important. And like you said, you probably could have been a neurologist right now if you happen to have like ran into her before everything else kind of came into play.
Right. It's just, it's crazy because again, never say never, but the whole modeling behaviors, it's imperative, it's reasons as to why, in medicine, you tend to gravitate towards people that you get along well with, who, you have a good experience with, regardless of maybe if you didn't like, the rotation, i.e. neurology or not, but, it is very important. And, or someone who's younger and, if they see you have a good attitude, have a good encounter, they're like, maybe I can be a doctor, or I want to be like that. And it's with any learned behavior, people are always watching. So, yeah.
I love it. And so I want to especially kind of bring, especially people that may not follow us on IG. If you don't follow us on IG, please correct that ASAP.
Yes.
And of course, like always, you don't got to write nothing down. All of our information will be in my information. You should know I'm at Dr. Barry Pierre everywhere. Her information will definitely be everywhere in the show notes as well too. So make sure you follow her ASAP. Press pause, follow, and then come back for that standpoint. So, but if they for some reason didn't catch the IG, let's tell let's tell Lunch Learn community, right? Kind of how we first kind of got together and got to this point where we've established this amazing relationship.
Oh yeah, so like you mentioned, Dr. Hasty, who was fundamental in your medical journey. He was definitely very influential in mine as well. And I was fortunate enough to meet him at Campbell University School of Osteopathic Medicine. I was part of the first class. And, all of the professors and faculty definitely took a, huge role and felt like it was a necessity to definitely help us get to where we wanted to go. And Dr. Hasty was definitely one of those people, I would be like, oh, hey, can we have, for example, Dr. Bob Ross Lee speak for our SMA chapter, and he'll make it happen. So he definitely saw my vision, and it's really good to have someone who believes in your ideas, even if they can be, so far-fetched, so crazy. There's plenty of times people are like, I don't think you can get her. And he was able to get Dr. William Anderson, who was still a civil rights leader, actually friends with Dr. Martin Luther King, marched with him. He was able to get him and, just those are just two, but of many people that Dr. Hasty was able to network me with. And he has always been in my corner. I can text him at 2 a.m. and best believe he will respond at 2:05.
Yes.
So when I was telling him,
and she is not lying. There's been times like, hey, Dr. Hasty, what do you think about? No, Vera, it's okay. Calm down, relax.
Yep. And so fast forward, throughout my medical journey, I have shown interest in wanting to have some type of social media influence. I've always been a quote unquote people person, which I think you kind of have to be in medicine, but I definitely wanted to do it on a different viewpoint. And whether that be, actually on TV, on radio, or just having an influence to mentees and people who look up to me, again, with the whole mentorship, he was like, oh, I have a former student, Dr. Pierre, who I think you guys would definitely mesh well with. And literally the rest is history. He hooked us up through email and, gave me introduction. And yeah, it felt like I had known Dr. Pierre for years.
Yes.
He's really good at, putting together personalities and being able to read that. And of course, that's important too, of any type of relationship you have. But it was a perfect match. And we literally have been talking since. So yeah, shout out to Dr. Hasty.
Shout out to Dr. Hasty, yes. And it's crazy because he for me, Dr. Hasty knows he does not have to ask me like things twice. All I got was it was either a text message or email. I forget what it was when the first time. It's like, hey, I got this person. I think you need to meet. Take her on the wing, do what you got. And I was like, oh, sure. Like I didn't even have to ask because I knew if he was given a cosign, like that's all I needed, right? Like if I got a Dr. Hasty cosign, like that was, I was good money there. And that's why I think it's important, especially because we talk a lot about the mentor-mentee relationship, right? The importance of being able to show up, right? Because when your mentor calls, when your mentee calls for you, right? Like you have to be able to kind of show up and kind of show out, right? Like, and, be about the action and being able to, help whoever that is take that next level, the next step. And when I see a lot of relationships, mentor-mentee relationships, like don't do well or don't last, a lot of times it's because, someone on one end isn't showing up when they're required to show up, right? So, and I could tell you, when I tell you Dr. Brooke, she was emailing, she wanted to know, she was like, no, when can we meet? She was like, it wasn't, and again, I get, trust me, I get mentee requests all the time. Trust me, all the time I get mentee requests, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, whatever, I'm getting them. And I always know how serious they are versus how serious they're contacting me, right? Like they may hit me one time and I never hear from them again. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, that's fine. But like when I knew first of all, I knew she was gonna be serious. When she was like, no, like we need to meet. Let's meet at this time. He would say, I'm good. And then I think our first conversation, I was at work. I was definitely at work during our first conversation, but I could just hear how excited she was, right, about the potential relationship. And that got me even more hype, right? Because like I said, if you're hype about it, like there's no reason why I should not myself be hype, right? So it was really like, kind of match made in heaven. And like I said, we've been kind of talking and conversing and really trying to help kind of really each other grow, right? Because like I said, it's a two-way street, right? Like a lot of times mentors think that, they're the ones giving their all to the mentee, but that's 100% not true, right? Like your mentee will help you grow and learn about yourself and learn about them and be able to kind of care for others, right? Because that's really the goal, right? As a physician, we set out to kind of serve others, right? So when you can serve someone kind of in your niche, in your ballpark, right? She just happens to be an internal medicine resident, right? I happen to be an internal medicine physician, right? Like it's just, and again, Dr. Hasty happens to be internal medicine, right? Like it's just something that just happens to kind of click. So it just really made the relationship much more, much easier, right? Like I said, it's not even a chore, right? It's one of those things where I just love talking to her, right? I love, kind of saying like, all right, what are we doing here? Like, what do we do? What's going to be the next level? And just kind of waiting for that next conversation. And I think that's why, we got here, right? Like, because I wanted to be able to not only show people like, yes, the importance of mentorship, but like really, we're actually gonna, if you're listening, we're gonna run through one of our sessions, right? So we're actually gonna break down exactly what we kind of be talking about, right? Just so you guys know it's not fluff, right? Like, we really be trying to like get some work in. That's always the goal. Always the goal here.
And we like to share. Well, I mean, we're open book, and I think that's important too. To let the viewers know, like, this is real life. There's no fluff to our session.
Yes, no. We're like, what are we doing? Why didn't we do it? Like, it's because you have to be, right? Because if you're not going to, be in a position, right, to help your mentor or mentee kind of grow, right? Like, you're not doing them the best justice, right? Like, you have to be able to kind of be on them and, be that push when they need a push, pull someone up when they need to be pulled up. Cause that's kind of how we do. Cause medicine's crazy. Right. And she's a 3rd-year resident, right, guys? She's ready to finish. Like, it's so like, so that light is getting so bright. But what she doesn't realize, what I've been trying to tell her, like, yeah, that light is bright, but like, ooh, you got a lot of work on that back end. Like, a lot of work's about to hit you, and you don't even know it yet, right? So we've been definitely coaching each other to say, like, hey, the work is coming, the work is coming. But because we're prepared for the work, right, and that's really the goal. Because we're prepared, we're going to be fine. Like, that's not going to be an issue whatsoever. We know the work is coming, and we're going to be prepared for it to go.
Yes.
So what we typically do is with Dr. Brooke, I kind of break her down to like 4 different parts, right? Because as a physician, a lot of times our character and identity usually kind of gets pigeonholed into the fact that, like, we're just a doctor, right? And to the point where people almost seem weirded out when you do something that's outside of you being a doctor. And our goal, especially from the beginning when I told her, is that, if you want to branch out, you want to kind of, be the person you want to be, you have to kind of, let people know, like, no, just don't look at me, right, as Dr. Brooke Williams, right? Like, look at me as this person who does A, B, C, and D, right? So that's kind of how our sessions are kind of structured. We'll start out with, her just kind of talking about her, the resident, and then we'll lead on to her being the attending. And then we go on to, she kind of mentioned it, right? Which is so boss, right? That she co-founded a nonprofit organization, which is absolutely crazy when I think about it. Like, I have a nonprofit organization, but I didn't do that till I was an attending, right? She did it as a 2nd-year medical student. So I want y'all guys to, give a virtual clap for that, because that's absolutely crazy. So shout out to her, Color of Medicine as well.
Mm-hmm.
Again, link will be in the show notes for that aspect. And then we just talk about just like kind of the general branding, because unfortunately in medicine, we don't get taught that, right? Like, we're taught to be the spokesman of health care, but no one teaches us actually how to be that spokesman. They just say, hey, you're a spokesman. You're supposed to represent all of medicine, especially because we're Black, right? So we represent all of Black medicine. And then she's a woman, right? So she represents all of Black medicine and being a woman, right? So she's got a lot of hats that's been thrust upon her. And we're just trying to make sure she can balance them all.
I really appreciate that, Dr. Pierre, because we definitely have some talking to do today.
Yes. So let's talk about, obviously, you being a resident, right? So what block rotation are we on right now?
We are currently on rheumatology, better known as rheumatology, for those who haven't heard of rheumatology yet. It is definitely one of those different fields. Being in internal medicine, we kind of like our evidence-based, A plus B equals C. And rheumatology, unfortunately, is not like that. It is a lot of blurred lines. There's a lot of, well, it can be, but so it's it is quite interesting, but it is very important for clinical practice, and most importantly, the upcoming thing for me is boards, and rheumatology is heavily tested. Whether that be for your step 3, your COMLEX, all the way up into your IM boards, which I'm currently studying for. It's just one of those topics that it affects all body systems. So it's easily testable. And, I was looking at the percent breakdown, and it's actually, it's not as heavy as cardiology or GI, but it is, I want to say, probably third or fourth highest tested system. And again, that doesn't include, looking at the cardiology system and applying a autoimmune disorder to that. So there's a lot of overlap. And so I'm just trying to learn the most I can out of the rotation. I did do it as a fourth year student, but I did it the tail end of fourth year, and everyone knows how fourth year medical school is. You are literally on cruise control. So
especially once you get past auditions, because I tell people all the time, fourth year is the worst year of your medical school life until after auditions. Because once after auditions is that, now you're just like, okay, now let's go.
Right. It is just, and maybe it did deserve to be doing it after auditions and rank and all that matching.
Mm-hmm.
But, this is important right now. And it's the same thing with third year residency. You start getting quote unquote burned out. You kind of hopefully only have one more floor month or one more ICU month left at this point. And you're just trying to get through. You're starting to interview for jobs and apply for boards to get ready for fellowship if that's what you decided to do. So it's really important to try to still kind of to make sure that you're still focused on day to day and learning and using this, $500,000 investment that you have put into. So, it's easy to kind of get lost in that until you put a dollar sign to that. So you have already invested in these days, so you might as well make use of your coins.
So how are we doing as far as our board setting? Last time, we were having kind of a questions. We were doing questions for the boards. We were talking about MCSAT. We were talking about med study. How are we doing as far as that front?
So board setting is slow and steady. I am still, you're always behind. So I think we should even throw out that term being behind.
Mm-hmm.
I am trying to do questions every day. I would say just like working out, I've hit probably 5 out of 7 days. With rheumatology, my attending actually gives me homework, like legitimate homework where we have like quizzes on the board, like quiz of the day.
Oh, that's so funny.
It actually,
shout out to that attending. Shout out to that attending.
Yes. Yes, he is very, very engaged in resident and fellow learning, which is important. Again, it's all an investment. And so that really pushes me to do questions, read pretty much every single night. And even though this is an elective, I think I've worked maybe just as hard, maybe harder than, your traditional 4 months. Because 4 months, you don't read when you come home because you're so tired. You're just trying to get through the day. So, yeah, this has been, a very impactful month for my board studying. I'm still using MCSAT. I'm probably a little bit more than halfway done with it. Actually, we did my schedule yesterday. So my goal is to try to be done by March because my program actually will purchase UWorld for the third year residents. And, UWorld, just like for, again, all the steps, all the complexes, is one of those Q banks that give you great questions. And I was actually talking to one of my co-residents. If you kind of look at it, UWorld doesn't have a board review course. They just use questions. So it's a method to their madness. I definitely think that their questions, they only have a Q bank for a reason, and that most people use their Q bank for a reason and, are pretty successful on it. So I'm going to use that at their MCSAT. And for my supplemental reading, I've been using the Med Study books. I personally like the way they read. It's like someone is literally talking to you, like having a conversation. And so for my, just the way I like to study, how I like to read and regurgitate information, I felt like Med Study was more helpful for me than mixed app books, but everyone's different. And that's what you have definitely made sure that I realize that going forward. And everyone always tells you, don't try to look at what other people are doing. Of course, it's good to get, some type of advice, but you can get really lost in, oh, I did this, I did that, and also using a lot of material. Yes, technically I'm using several resources, but I'm picking specific things out of those resources. Right. I'm not doing messy questions. I'm just using the books for supplemental reading if I need to. Mixed app is just kind of like, the golden standard. Yep. Everyone knows it to be, ACP. So to get through that QBank baseline was one of my goals, and using UWorld as another supplemental QBank after I finish my pass through mixed app, because also we use mixed app questions to a board review during our residency. So a lot of times you've seen the question. So, if you've seen the question once, even if, you've read the explanation, you're probably going to remember the question if you see it again. So It's not really doing you that much
new information.
Right. So that's why I wanted to pick another QBank. And then I also, and not everyone does this, but I'm going to do a board review course. I've been doing some research. There's plenty out there. John Hopkins has one, Cleveland Clinic. ACP has one.
Med Study. There's so many.
There's so many.
Now, are you planning on doing yours online or on site?
I want to do it on site. Mm-hmm. There is this board review course called Awesome Board Review. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. They're based out of, I think, New York and New Jersey. And one of the Facebook groups I'm actually part of, someone had asked about ABIM board review course, and someone had mentioned the Awesome Board Review course, and one of my co-residents had mentioned it, and someone had commented and was like, they felt like they had the cheat sheet for ABIM boards. Like, that's how good the course was.
Oh, nice. And
it's one gentleman who teaches the course. It's either over the span of 2 weekends or a full week. And of course, it's long days, but if I can do something to kind of re-solidify everything that I have learned and just building up confidence, I think that's the biggest thing for me, is to build my confidence, not to reteach me or teach me the first time through a board course, because, that would be overwhelming. Send you down. That would be so much.
What I love is what's so important is the fact that you're recognizing. We've Lunch Learn Community, we've kind of talked about this as well, especially in this stage of our mentorship, as far as under the resident tab, is that it is very easy to get overwhelmed with the amount of ways you can study for this exam. There's so many different testing modalities, so many different ways, and you have to know yourself. You have to know what works best for you, even before you start anything. Because if you don't, then you end up, spending crazy amounts of money, on multiple question banks, multiple study guides, multiple books, all of these things here, because you're not sure. And when I talk to a lot of mentees and I see that level of uncertainty, those are the ones who typically will, buy like 4 or 5 different things, right, that are essentially doing the same exact thing because they're just really not confident in themselves. So having a level of confidence is first and foremost the most important thing when you get into this board study aspect. And we talked in one of our earlier sessions about kind of setting a schedule for it, which is why, she said she feels she's quote unquote behind. But I can tell you right now, I'm as a program director, we've supplied the mix set for all of our residents. And because I do so, I can see like how many questions my residents have done. And I can tell you, being halfway would be higher than, at 18, probably 16 of my residents, right? Just to give you an idea. And it's crazy. So you'd be surprised, you're actually a lot further along. And when you think about it, but again, you don't want to think about in the comparison. You're just all right, versus where I want to be, is this kind of the pace and where I want. So, and that's really what we've been stressing, just making sure she's pacing herself. So, because we don't want her burning out over questions and study guides and books and everything else, because there's so much stuff out there to get inundated with, right? And we definitely don't want that. We want her to be super confident, when that test does come around, she kills it, and then she doesn't have to worry about it for another 10 years.
Yes, because this is not a test I am wanting to retake by any means. You know, they say the IM boards is one of the hardest boards exams across the board, no pun intended. But literally because it's so like you have to know everything about everything.
Yep.
And so it's definitely, you know, it's definitely doable. I want to let people know that the questions is, you know, like any other board questions you have or licensing, they're not meant to trick you. So if you study, you know that you'll be able to answer them. Mm-hmm. It's just making sure that you get through the material and solidifying, again, what you know. But I'm still a work in progress. There's definitely
nothing worse than not getting through the material, taking a test like that, and then looking back at your material like, wow, that was like the next chapter. Like if I would have just read that chapter, I would that's like the worst feeling whatsoever. So what I will be telling her is that once she's done and once she's ready to take that test, and you know, don't go back looking and say like, what was this answer? What was the answer? Just you got to be like, take a deep breath, because you don't want to beat yourself up over something, especially when you don't know the exam results is. So there's gonna be a lot of relaxing once that test is said and done.
Well, I am notorious for that. God, I am so bad for doing that, like self-sabotaging. Even in the middle, I remember like in-service exam in August, and, you know, in between each section, I would go, like we would have the review book, and I would flip through and see if I got it right or wrong. And I don't know why I do that every time. It doesn't help. It just kind of brings up your nerves.
Oh, sure.
Because in the test, you're just focused on either mostly what you got wrong, and then you can't think clearly
about the stuff you got right. And
right. So it's just a big jumble. I'm not sure. Do they allow you to? I've heard mixed things. You are allowed to have stuff in your locker for. I guess I have to look it up. For the ABIM. Or do you even
because that's like the AOBIM, and like I don't think I had anything in my locker. I mean, I had stuff in my car, but I don't remember if I had anything in my locker per se. But like I'm also the type, you know, full disclosure, I'm the type that on test day, like I am not the one sitting in class reading a book. I'm probably like listening to music because my setting has already happened Sunday night. Like once Sunday night hits, I'm getting a good night's sleep. And that's it. Like what I know. What I don't know, I'm not going to learn it in the next 12 hours anyways. So I'm not the best example for that, because I leave books at home. Like there's no point in bringing it. I'm not going to look at it. I'm coming here. I'm coming to vibe. I'm listening to my music, and then I'm going to take this test, and then I'm going home. Like that's how I usually rock.
So you recommend don't bring?
You know, it's obviously from individual standpoint. You know, how, you know, maybe bring something, even if it's in the car, right? Where you can at least, like, especially when you have that lunch break and you have like an hours and change to kind of like decompress. Like, all right, let me just shore up my rheumatology, right? Let me just shore up these last tidbits before I go in there and knock out the rest of the half. So you can do that. Like
a sheet of a couple facts or stuff like that. Okay. So yeah, maybe I'll do that.
Just those quick facts where, you know, you don't have to necessarily, commit it to long-term memory. You just need to know it for that test because it's mundane, but it's mundane that they always ask for it, which is typical in medicine boards, medicine board related questions.
Yes, especially those antibodies, which will be the death of me.
Yes.
Rheumatology. I mean, good God.
Rheumatology is so funny because it'd be like, well, yeah, you can be ANA positive and have the symptoms, but you also be ANA negative and have the same symptoms. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, no, that doesn't make sense. Right.
Hence my frustration with rheumatology, but I'm learning. I'm just, trying to go on the path of least resistance and learning what I can.
I love it. What I can. So our next section is Dr. Williams, a future attending. And so this is where I always have to, redirect and, make sure she's going in the right direction for us, because it can be, it will sneak up on you. I'm telling my third years right now, like, hey, you're going to be graduating soon. I just want to let you know that, like, it's happening. Like, I know it may seem like a far away, but you're going to look up And then it's graduation time, man. We kicking you out. We kicking you out the door regardless. So you're not staying here longer than the 3 years.
I know. Honestly, I'm like, I want not 3 more years. I want 6 more months. Like, it's, one of those times to where you're like, oh man, I can't wait to be done. And then the time literally flies by.
Mm-hmm.
Like, goodness gracious. And you realize time is flying by. And
we already in February. We are already in February.
And, the fact that you are going to be the person who really is in charge. I think that is one of the biggest things. And even down to, okay, I know how to discharge. I know when, someone's ready to be discharged, but like that setting in, like, oh crap, like, or the like family.
I'm really going to be the discharger. Like, it's not even like, oh, hey, I think this person's ready. They're like, well, if you're ready, put the order in. Like, that's what's going to happen.
Yes. And like, it's just, I guess everyone goes through this and it's nothing, new, but just, I guess you won't really gain your confidence as an attending. I've heard like it takes 5 years, 3 to 5 years for you to actually feel comfortable as a, like, not junior attending, us coming out with junior attendings, but like actually in your management, because you're constantly learning your medicine. You're not you have to throw away the idea that you, after you finish residency, you're supposed to know everything. No. So it's okay. Recognize, what you know, what you don't know. You can look things up. It's not a test. And, just be ready to continue to learn, just like if in any other part of your training. The job search process, I think, has been kind of a semi-rude awakening. I think, not to say it's a disappointment, but we all have looked forward to this moment, right? We're like, oh my God, I cannot wait. I'm going to be so happy. I'm going to look for a job. I can make all these demands, but you really can't. And I think that people need to be realistic and,
I love it though, because that's really what it is. Like, oh, okay. Like, I had some thoughts, and then reality came through and said, nah, let's relax.
Real quick. It is not, you can make some, everything's negotiable. Yes, it is. But I don't want to sound pessimistic, but you can't have it all. And I think the sooner you kind of come to that realization and seeing what's most important to you, and then some things that, are negotiable with you and your future employee or employer, I'm sorry. Or, even if you work for yourself, you can't have everything. There's definitely pluses and minuses, pros and cons with anything that you do, any job. And so kind of, again, coming and putting on my big girl panties and realizing, this is not, rainbows and unicorns or whatever, analogy you want to put to it, that, this is a job. Yes, you are going to be compensated for it, and it's probably going to be a little bit better than residency, again, plus or minus pros and cons.
Let's Learn community, I told it better be a lot better than residency.
I hope so. Yes. I think the first 6 months, they say it's like the biggest adjustment period to, I don't know, you could tell me, like, when you first came out?
I think one of the biggest things, especially as a resident for Lunch Learning community members who may not know, typically the salary ranges, depending on where you live at, between, I'll say 48 to like 55, something in that range, right? That's kind of where that you'll live at. And so imagine, for 3 years, you're getting paid around that range. And then all of a sudden you graduate and now people are giving you numbers like 150, 200 a year, and then we're talking about thousands, 250,000. Like you're seeing almost 3 times the amount of money that you've seen over the past 3 years. And if you're a medical student, you likely weren't working. So just imagine that magnitude of a salary increase that occurs. And for a lot of residents, especially as the future attending stage is getting mentally prepared for that, most important, because, bills are coming. I like to say the lottery is about to hit, right? Because all of a sudden you're gonna make let's say 5-figure checks, right? Something that you probably most medical students, most residents are not used to making, and you have to be ready to be able to deal with that type of money sitting in your account, especially because the bills are coming. I stressed before, the bills are coming. And by bills we mean student loans. If you have student loans, if you're not, lucky for you as well. So it's definitely something to really kind of get that mental wrap around. But then I stress, and we talked with Dr. Brooke. I say we, but it's me. The fact that we can't let money be that golden carrot, right? That leads us astray. Because a lot of people, unfortunately, a lot of jobs will do that, right? They'll throw these crazy numbers because for you they are crazy numbers. But she talked about her must-have and must-have-nots. And I told her that was one of our first things as a future attending. I said, you need to make a list of what you're not going to want to do as an attending and kind of be bold right there. What you're not going to want to do as an attending. I don't want to do this. I don't if you don't have that, then I can, hit you with that shiny carrot and then you'll just take it. And then all of a sudden you're doing things that you hate doing for 2-3+ years.
True. I mean, okay, so I guess we get down and dirty, stop talking superficial. So
yes.
I have a job interview in North Carolina for the audience purposes. I actually have a loan/scholarship of the state of North Carolina. They gave me $60,000 over the span of medical school in return that I go back and serve the state of North Carolina, people in North Carolina, 1 year for each year that I re-signed that contract, which was 4. So the total was $60,000. Over the course of medical school and residency, it has been accruing interest at 8%. If I do not go back, I owe the $60,000 at 8% that has been accruing. Mm-hmm. So the most logical and financially responsible thing is for me to at least go back and start working some of that debt down per se, or my obligation that would turn to a debt if I did not go back. I think someone calculated the math, and I'm not a math person, so it would be about $90,000 that I would be looking at paying back if I didn't. And again, that would be accruing interest. So they would expect for me to pay that back immediately. Set up some type of payment plan. And so there are, I could definitely work and save up some money and pay my way out of the contract, because what I didn't realize is that usually where you do residency at, you'll end up, kind of like in the place. I came to Chicago on a whim. I have no family here. I'm a Southern girl. And my first 2.5 years, I hated it. And I was like, I can't wait to get back to North Carolina. So this loan contract I signed was going to ensure me I get back. And then now, lo and behold, I want to stay in Chicago, but I have an obligation. So whether, it would have been my own doing and me going back to North Carolina naturally and saying, you know what, I still do want to go back home versus having a loan, it's a lot better going back on your own terms. So I mean, of course, that's something that I just have to learn, and something I did. I don't necessarily regret it. They definitely did help with my some of my student loans, but again, it's one of the sacrifices, the things you learn from. So with my job,
do, right? So when finances are an issue, right? It's one of those things where you're like, wow, it is a nice, especially while you're in the thing and not having to think about wow, you know what? I give them $60,000 poor, right? Having to give it out to loans, but at least I have this crutch there. So, So this job, when's this job interview going down?
It's going down the end of February. It is in a more ruralish area, part-time position, because one of the things I didn't want to do was work nights. And right now, a lot of places are looking for nocturnists because most people don't want to work nights.
No, most residents don't want to work nights. So imagine trying to get attending to work nights.
Right. So it's no. So right now they have an opening for a part-time day position. The salary is within at least 95th percentile. So they're compensating me very well, or will be.
Even at part-time? Even at a part-time position?
At part-time,
wow.
Yeah, part-time.
What is part-time for the lunch learning community?
So a hospitalist is 1 week, essentially out the month, 7 days. So you work 12 weeks out the year. And that's with me being able to bring in, like you said, 6 figures. And so some of the things you look at, or what I looked at, as we talked about, was non-compete. So that's something where basically you and your employer have a contract that states that you are unable to work with a competitor within a certain amount of time and a certain amount of radius if you decide to quit or terminate it for a reason. But this employer does not have a non-compete, which is a plus.
Nice.
And I could do a 1-year contract, which I was also advised to do. Most people coming out of residency, you stay in your first job, anywhere from 12 to 18 months. Usually, you try to figure out what you like, what you don't like. So 1 year, I think, would give me the opportunity to see if this, something I want to continue to do after 1 year. I've learned and now I want to do something else.
Nice.
So I think that will be a good opportunity for me. And then also, my first year, I plan on staying with my parents, God help me, for the first year to save money. And even though, I feel like it's kind of backtracking, every single person says, you would be crazy not to take that opportunity. I'll have no financial responsibility.
Lunch learning community, let me tell you right now, if I could stay with my mom right now and not have to pay this mortgage, I'd be right up in the house. And because she when she first said that, I was like, "Oh, nice!" Because I wish, trust me, I'm telling you. And I was married. I didn't have a kid at the time. I would have gladly moved right back to my mom's crib if I could have. Because again, it's like I said, the bills are coming, right? And if you can avoid one of the main bills, which is housing, right? Like if you can avoid that, if not only for 6 months, 8 months, a year, like the amount of money that you can save. Right, is makes complete sense, right? You can save that money and then get your own house, right? And then you'd be like, wow, I wish I would stay with my parents again. So we've definitely had that chuckle about that. And I told her, you don't got nothing to worry about, you don't got nothing to be embarrassed about. Like it is like one, because a lot of people do it, right? There's
and that's what everyone keeps saying.
There's a reason why a lot of people go back home, right? And it's because of that financial support that's there. And it could be indirect, right? Like imagine if we had, like I have kids, right? And my mom stays 5 minutes from the house. My aunt stays like 10 minutes. Like, so I got family close. So guess what? Guess what I don't have to pay for? I don't have to pay for babysitters, right? And that's the thing where we might not have that direct cost, but like the amount of money that you save, you're like, okay. So there's a lot of different reasons people go back home, and finances is usually number one. So I told her, I said, you're lucky. I said, you're in a position where you can do that, so please take advantage of it for as long as you can until they kick you out.
Okay. I'll try. I mean, listen, I am going to try for a year, and, I'll be able to travel and do all those types of things. It'll give me there's an array of benefits to doing that. So
yeah, no, this 1 week a month is actually and I'll bring the question because I know someone in my listening community probably could think about it, especially because you're still thinking about Chicago. Working once a week definitely could open up to opportunities to be working in Chicago if you wanted to do that as well too. It would probably have to be in another part-time capacity, but that is right. That is something to think about. Now with this once a week. Now, is it the same week, like the same first week or second week? Like, how do they break down this once a week?
I'm not sure. I mean, that'd be a great question for me to ask when I do the interview, because and hopefully we can have one more quick session before I do the interview, but like interview questions to ask, because, we go in there and look like, a deer in headlights, because again, they're going to be putting that money up front, and they know how to lure people in.
Oh, they know. They know. Like I said, they know that money is nice. You go like, woo! And you go, man, like, right. Please move the money out the way so we can talk about the real business. Like, let's right. You got to be very diligent. So no, yeah, we'll definitely have. We won't record that, but we'll definitely have. Just interviews. discussion for sure. Obviously, I'm as a program director, as a fraternity member who I was the state director. I've been through a lot of interviews. Just program director alone, 7 days, over 200 as a program director. In my fraternity, probably like close to 50. Probably like 50 folks I've interviewed as well too. And the framework is all the same. I'll say that the framework is all the same. Questions ain't all the same, but the framework is definitely all the same on how to have a successful interview. So
I definitely get you there. And maybe we can do like a quick IG live session. I think questions to ask specifically for someone coming out of residency and going to their first interview or second or whatever the case may be is important because, what do you ask? What are the things that you need to make sure that before entering, making sure you have an attorney look over your, your contract, things like that. And like you said, how would my schedule be? Would it be the same week or would it alternate? I don't know.
It is a very good question because especially because I was already thinking like, oh wow, if I was working somewhere once a week, like I could easily fly into there once a week, do my job, and then like fly out. That's what I automatically started thinking once you said once a week. And then again, we'll definitely touch more on it, but like I definitely would want to know what happens if I do pick up an extra shift? Do I get paid the same rate? Right, that'd be another question I'm just thinking about. But like I said, we'll definitely do an IG live to kind of like touch base on that. So this is our first interview, right? So definitely, yay! Let's give a claps for that. Definitely excited for our first interview. Now, how far away from home is this?
It's about a 15-minute commute.
Oh, nice.
So it's not too bad.
Nice.
So
that's very
50,
good.
like 50, not 15.
Yeah. Say it again.
Yeah, like 50, not 15.
Oh, 50. Ooh, 50 minutes. Okay. About an hour. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you're gonna get a lot of podcast listening in and audiobooks, and especially for that type of drive. But I'm pretty sure the money kind of correlates with it. So
the money does, and my mentor actually has a condo. She actually works for that hospital as well. So worst case scenario, if I'm tired, I can always stay there. Do what I need to do. But I commute now is about 30 minutes.
Okay.
And I know people commute, day to day. People drive like an hour. So,
an hour ain't out there. We just got to keep ourselves busy and productive during that hour. Well, 2 hours really, because we got to to and fro from that standpoint. So, all right. So we getting ready for our first interview. Ooh, definitely excited about that. Now, what else are we doing as far as on the job front? Like, where are we at as far as just kind of some of the different hospital stays and hospital systems out there?
So I want to talk to you and just some, anybody who has experience with locums. I was possibly entertaining that. And again, that has pluses and minuses. And locums is, for anybody listening, is an opportunity for you to do contracted work. The pay is higher, but it tends to not have, insurance benefits, things of that nature. But with the part-time position I'm looking at, I would have full benefits. So for me, it would work out for that. Of course, I'll have to make sure that the locums, I'm not sure, Dr. Pierre, if they have a non-compete with working for other companies. I'm not sure.
I know several people who do locums, and they work locums for several different agencies. And so it's usually... they'll have 3-4 different agencies that they're like, and it really is because like the rate is higher in this state with this agency versus that one. Some agencies have the contract with a certain hospital where others don't. So it definitely behooves you to almost be like a free agent in the sense in the locums world as well, to be able to kind of maximize your opportunity. And a good friend of mine, Dr. Stephanie, she has, and I'll put her link in the show notes as well too. Like she has her own, she does a locums course as well. So especially for any residents who are itching, they're thinking like, locums maybe something to think about, like I'll definitely put Dr. Stephanie's course information in there. Definitely would recommend her to check out. And she has a Facebook group. If I can find her Facebook group, I'll make sure I put the Facebook group as well too. But definitely she has a course that I think you should be, anyone who's interested in the locum should be definitely thinking about.
And she actually reached out to me. It's funny because one of the other MOCA docs had recommended her to me.
Oh, nice! So, I love this circle. The circles it's not a big circle, so like I'm thinking locum. Dr. Stephanie.
Yes, and I mean maybe that would be someone good too. To if we could do a podcast with her.
Oh yes. Oh, it's all right. It's done. It's done. I'm ready. Dr. Stephanie, if you're listening to this, you're getting an invite. Just let you know.
Yes, we could do a 3-way. You can use my license example. Because I know, again, it's not a one size fits all. There's different strokes for different folks. And, my situation may be different and she may give me different advice rather than someone else who's been in the game for a little bit. And, moving around in different hospitals, I'm pretty sure it's not the most comfortable because it's new every single time. So it's like,
yes,
you're not comfortable with the people and stuff like that. So, take everything with a grain of salt. But that would definitely like to have a session. If you can make that happen, Dr. Pierre, that you can be a Dr. Hasty and pull it together.
Yes. All right. Perfect. I love it. I love that. So we have job interview coming up. We're still applying to other places right now. We're in locums is also another. Now, will your locums be in North Carolina? Like, does it have to be in it? Well, I'm assuming it has to be in North Carolina to satisfy the scholarship.
So with the part-time position, so the scholarship loan that I have, when I spoke to the fellows, the name of the scholarship alone, they said I literally just had to serve the people in North Carolina, that they had so much difficulty retaining people in the program that was my only obligation. It did not say full-time, part-time.
Okay.
Because I called them. So yeah, I've been kind of struggling with this. Yes, I would love to practice probably in Indiana versus Illinois just because of not practice. But if I did do locum, say in Raleigh, and I was making being compensated again well enough, I could fly to Chicago and still afford to stay in a hotel. I mean, I have plenty of friends here who I could stay with, but it would still put me in a financial position to be able to come to Chicago as I please. So that might be something that I could look into instead of trying to force things up here. And if I just kept going back and forth and I found myself really being up here more, then I could maybe I should look at to something a little bit more semi-permanent in Indiana, Illinois, and Chicagoland area. So,
right. Okay. All right.
Just trying to be open.
Yes.
Never say never.
Never.
I said I would never stay in Chicago. Now I want to stay. So.
Now you're like, I want to go. I can't go. And that's what I love, especially as a resident. You're about to finish your career. A lot of us think that we have to hit this jackpot right when we get out of residency, right? Like we have to hit the dream job right out of residency. If we don't hit the dream job right out of residency, we fail. That's not true. Like you said, a lot of people don't stay in a job past 2 to 3 years because they're like, you know what? I like this starting foundation, but I'm actually ready to go and kind of prosper. That's kind of how it turned up with me. I love outpatient medicine, still love outpatient medicine, and I started at Bethesda. But then this opportunity came and it was like, hey, you could be a program director. And I said, all right, Bethesda, kick rocks. See you later. Bye. And then I left, right? And it was, again, there were some issues at Bethesda. I've talked about it before where I was glad I was leaving. Not necessarily glad that I was leaving the people I was working with, but just that corporate organization just wasn't where mentally I needed to be. So not knocking it out of the park on your first job opportunity isn't out of the ordinary. It actually happens a lot. And, being able to say like, yep, nope, this is not for me. And that's when, again, we got to go back to our foundation, say like, all right, what are my must-have? What are my must-have nots? Right. And then once you start seeing that your must-have nots start accumulating, that's when you got like, all right, I got to go. Right? And that's a fluid list. Like you may get there and say, you know what? I may want to start doing nights again. You may say something crazy like that. Like that may sneak into the mental. Right. And that's okay. Because we know that, it's you're allowed to change it because you're a grown adult. right? You're a grown adult and you're a physician, and you're allowed to do that, and you're in demand. Regardless of what people say, you're in very high demand for the position you want.
Do you recommend, because, people always ask, like, okay, you're talking to a recruiter or whoever it may be, oh, so what is your experience like? Because they tend to definitely weigh that in, which, of course, they definitely should. Do you think that that's something that is way up on the totem pole as far as being compensated, or you think they're just trying to?
Well, the compensation, it depends. What's funny is that it really depends on how they're paying you. If, like, for example, for those who don't know, let's say in a hospital setting, right, where let's say if you're getting collections, right, like you're getting paid based on the amount of people you see, and you get a percentage of that. Regardless of how much experience you have, you could come fresh out of residency. I could be out of the game for 10 years. And if you see more people than me, you're going to get paid more than me, right? Because that's just the name of the game. So your experience really doesn't matter. Like it may be justified when they start thinking about starting pay. But if the way your pay structure isn't based on how many years have been in this game, and I can tell you right now, a lot of corporations are moving away from it. They're moving towards the setting of productivity, aka how many patients did you see? That whole years thing is more fluff than anything else. But they usually do it to kind of establish a baseline and say like, hey, you just got a residency, so I'm not gonna pay you more than $200 a year. Versus if someone was out for 10 years, they'd have to start out at like $240 and then work with the compensation on the back end as well. So it definitely varies on how you're getting paid. But it usually kind of like that's how they kind of finagle it. They say, oh, well, we'll just start you out of this. And then, if you collect more, you collect more.
I see. Okay.
So that's Dr. Williams, the future attending. Let's talk about Dr. Williams, the nonprofit founder. Last time we talked, you were doing a volunteer event at Michelle Obama's high school.
Yes. Yeah.
So how's it been since then?
Things have been going well. I think that we had a board meeting, and just to kind of give you guys a little background. Mm-hmm. My co-founder, she is doing her postdoctoral at Northwestern, so she's still in training. The board members, one is a third year neurology resident going into a fellowship, and the other one is a medical student at USC. So we all are very fresh / currently in training. So a lot of what we want to do has to kind of be scaled a little bit because we're full time. We are still learning. Like we cannot operate as a lot of nonprofits would because that's their full time job. Like a lot of nonprofits, that's all they do. That is, day in and day out. So we have to come to kind of a realization that we have these grand ideas, which is great, and hopefully we can achieve those one day. But right now, what can we do that's going to be the most impactful, that's not going to be watered down? We don't have that many members, but we can definitely most certainly do things within the community that will make a marker impact. So we decided to continue our table talk discussions, which all that entails is just going inside the classroom or doing community meetups where we essentially just talk about who we are, what we do, what we can offer people, whether that be them coming to shadow, them getting our contact information and asking us a little bit more about how to get to where we are, or again, just, giving a word of encouragement. So that has definitely been a common census amongst all of us on the board members and saying, this is what we want to do for sure. Initially, we wanted to do a mentee mentor program, which in the initial vision was a one-on-one program. Like many people know, a one-on-one mentee mentorship takes a lot of time on both sides, a lot of dedication, and not to say that we wouldn't be able to, but I think where we are realistically, would that come with the sacrifice of us taking away from where we are right now in our careers and trying to learn, and not being able to present the best version of ourselves to someone else who's looking up to us. So with all that being said, we have decided to hold off on that aspect, continue the mentorship as, day to day, but not do one-on-one mentoring until we had more members within the organization, and also our time. Time is very valuable, and we don't want to start something.
And reason why, and that's why I kind of broke down Dr. Williams kind of in these 4 parts, because I wanted her to be able to see just how many different hats she was wearing all at the same time. And a lot of times when we're in the midst of the work, in the midst of the action, we don't even realize all the stuff we're juggling. So I purposely, when we first started, kind of say like, oh, well, let's do, you're this person, like I have to treat you like, yes, you are 4 different people, because really that we were actually more, but we didn't even go that far. I said like, we'll just focus on these 4 here, just so she can kind of see like, oh wow, I do a lot. Because I think that's what happens too. Like we're too busy ripping and running that we don't kind of sit down and kind of even like appreciate the amount of work that we're doing. So, and guys, you can kind of see just how much work she's been doing just up until this point here. And remember, she's still a resident, right? They still haven't even cut her the big checks yet, right? She's still got to like sign out to attendings. She's still got interns to look after. So she hasn't even like been, released a lot of her responsibility. But it's one of those things where like you have to kind of smell the roses now. So as you can see, she's putting in work, and trust me, as a also a nonprofit founder as well, I can tell you one of the things that we set out early is to make sure we don't overburden ourselves, because you never want it to feel like work, right? You never want your service and what you're giving back. You don't want it to feel like work. You just want to say like, oh, I just love what I'm doing. And a lot of times, if you got too much stuff on your plate, that's what can happen. And then everybody suffers. You suffer, the mentees suffer, the organization suffers. So we don't want no one suffer.
Right. No, I definitely take that to heart now. And I think that's essentially what we had to do, and take a step back and say, you know what can we do well right now with us 4? And we have a great advisor who is, very well equipped to being involved in nonprofit organizations. And, she's not a helicopter mom, but she definitely does some great oversight and, tells us maybe we should think about it this way, or, just trying to make us come to realization, you don't have to do it all today or tomorrow or next month.
Yes.
So, that's, kind of where we're at. We definitely are going to continue to be involved with CPS, and actually doing the second part to our research that I got the IRB approved, and using surveys to distribute to high school students to see where some of these gaps are within that are causing students to not matriculate, or specifically underrepresented students not to matriculate into medicine and STEM. So we have that aspect, because I'll be presenting the research in April at my hospital's 2nd annual research symposium. So
nice.
That's going to be another, opportunity for us to get grant funding, because with the nonprofit, we don't have funds. So we have to make sure that we are showing resources to why people should donate, and what our purpose is and what they can see from that. So, I did not realize how much work a nonprofit takes. Like, a lot of people throw around that term, and it's a full-time job. It
full-time,
is,
yes,
full-time, and you have to be fully invested in it. And the ladies, Desiree, hats off to them, because, we all work together with our schedules. We come home, we're tired. who want to watch Grey's and who I want to watch Grey's Anatomy, How to Get Murder, whatever the case may be, and eat some food and go to sleep. But, you know, we have board meetings. It's the only time we have to have board meetings during the week after work for, you know, several hours, try to figure out what we're going to do next. Or it's just a lot of different things. So, you know, it's a great opportunity. I still love it. It's not become a job yet. And I don't want it to, you know, become that, just like Dr. Pierre said. So,
exactly.
Right.
And I can tell you, like, we've had our nonprofit for, I think, 2019. So I think like 5 or 6 years. And the only thing, and I think we purposely did it because, you know, I'm a co-founder. My other co-founder, he's like a VP at Bank of America. Like he's an even bigger shot than me. Then we have our executive director. He's in South Florida. Like we have, but literally the only thing we do is we give out a high school scholarship every year. Right? We haven't expanded. We haven't moved. In fact, and I take it back. We went from 2 scholarships to 4. Like that was it, because we just kind of know ourselves, and I temper ourselves. Like, hey guys, like I hear all the stuff we want to do, but let's pump our brakes a little bit. So you know, we just have the one thing. We do that one thing very, very well, and we do it every year. And it's like clockwork. It's not work. We boom. We select some 4 folks. And you say, hey, here you go. You just won a scholarship. So I definitely agree with that, especially because obviously, you know, even Dr. Williams, if the attending, right, is still going to want to be involved with her nonprofit. So it's not something that's going to go away. And, you know, once I think we take off the moniker of resident, we'll actually have some free time, some more leeway, some more finances, right, to do some things that will benefit the nonprofit Dr. Williams as well.
Right. No, absolutely. And then, you know, outside the nonprofit too, I'm still building my brand.
Yes. This is our next thing. Dr. Way is the brand. Yes. let's talk about it.
Dr. Williams, it is evolving every day. You know, it's you know, I'm seeing what I like, what I don't like, things that I thought that I would really enjoy. Like, oh my God, that looks so amazing. I wish I was able to do X, Y, and Z, and I get the opportunity. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe this is not what I wanted. It's different than what you see. So it's all a trial and error basis. I actually have an IG live session coming up with one of my big sisters / mentors, Dr. Benoit Millhouse. She's a urologist, and one of the other physicians from a Facebook group, gentleman. And we're actually going to be having a discussion the day before Valentine's Day, cue the violins. And we're going to be talking about dating and relationships for the young professional. And that's going to be part 1. And then we'll have a part 2 that's going to be talking about marriage and beyond. So I think it'll be something good for, especially around this, you know, time. And again, this kind of evolves around my life, not to be kind of selfish, but
sure,
you know,
it's not selfish to put yourself first.
Yeah,
I said the whole time, it is not selfish to put yourself first, because if you don't, like, who's supposed to?
Right. No, absolutely. So again, we'll be sharing, you know, some of our experiences, and just, it's kind of, I guess, like a therapy session in a sense, just talking. All right, so figuring out.
Where do we tune in for that? So the Lunch Learn community knows.
So you can tune into Dr. Brooke Ashland. That is my Instagram name. We'll be going live on there, and it'll be probably like an hour talk. People can access live questions. We've actually, throughout the week, we'll be posting things on our stories to kind of get some audience teasers to see what people want us to actually talk about, what are some people's opinions about certain things. And then, just kind of going from there to be fun, lighthearted, and just kind of shed light to what we go through day to day. You know, again, we carry different hats, but our personal lives sometimes take a back burner because, you know, we have to sacrifice time away from what most people our age would be doing now. And I am the first person to admit it. Like, you know, I have been successful, I guess, on the career side, but not on my like personal relationship side. So I'm 30 now, and that's something that I do want. I want to be a wife. I want to be a mother. So it's not really playing catch up, because there's no really catch up to your own timeline. Your timeline is your timeline, but that is something I know I do want out of life. So we'll just be talking about that and just the nuances and the plus and minus to being married before or during or after. And, I'm sure, Dr. Pierre, you can definitely speak on both those topics. I'm sure you dated, you had to date before you got married. So all of those things, the spectrum, and mixed in with trying to be a physician or being a physician or being an attending or resident, wherever you are in your training is pretty difficult. And
that's
for you and your partner.
That's gonna be a very interesting conversation, because there's so many different factors and levels, and so that's gonna be very. So again, Lunch and Learn community, please turn into that first one that's happening on the 13th. You said the 13th, right? The day before Valentine.
Yeah,
so 13th, and then we'll find out when the next one, because those are very interesting topics. And Lunch and Learn community, again, because I'm in a lot of groups as well too. Like, it's definitely something that does not get brushed around. Like, what's funny, even with all of the the hats and the discussions that me and Dr. Williams had, Dr. Brooke has, right? Like, I know the personal is like this huge like elephant, right? That I kind of have to balance it, because I know the personal factors in a lot of the other things, the resident, the future attending, the nonprofit, the branding in and of itself. And I know, like, I wonder how her personal life is. I don't ask her that, but I'm like, because it has to be a factor, right?
I'll tell you.
It's gonna. So we're gonna get into that. We're not gonna get onto it on the podcast. We're not gonna get you in your business. But like, it is something that like I know affects every different level. Right. So definitely I'm going to be tuned in on the 13th. I'm going to be very interested, to hear, people's take on it, because it's an extremely important topic that unfortunately, I don't think we talk about enough, give or take, which I think is funny, because again, when we talk about wellness and mindset and being right, sometimes being, having someone to talk to, being in a relationship, like sometimes that kind of, especially in medicine where we really need to decompress. A lot of our professions, again, I'm an internist, I'm a hospitalist. It is just as common for me to go to work, say good morning to someone, and not be able to say good afternoon because they passed away, right? Like, that's unfortunately a reality that I have to face with my job, right? So and a lot of us are in jobs like that, right? Where like your patient that you may be able to say hi to, you may not be able to say bye to. Right, the patient that you you meet in the ER, you admit from the ER, may not walk out that hospital. So that is, and it's very telling, as medical professionals, that a lot of times our mindset and our wellness usually kind of gets put on the back burner because we're putting everyone else in the front. And that's why I made sure I stopped there and said, like, no, it's okay to be selfish, because you have to be, because no one else is going to be selfish. And no one else is going to put you first until you do it.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just one of those. I think people look at, especially physicians' lives, like it's Grey's Anatomy, like, oh, let's see, Dr. Richie, Dr. Regini. Like, no, I'm sorry. I wish it was like that, but it's not. No. So we'll definitely be dissecting this. And Dr. Pierre, I hope you're on there and be able to chime in.
Sure,
I really wish we could do this as like a in-person live. Like, I feel like we need like a talk show, like a sit down, it's hard because people are going to be like trying to text or type out the, the response. And we're going to have a lot of different people want to say stuff, but unfortunately, y'all will just be able to see us. And, but I think hopefully, we'll see what happens.
Okay.
And people want to continue to hear things like this, and you never know who's watching. So who knows? This could take off somewhere. So a real live Grey's Anatomy.
Real live Grey's Anatomy. I'm 100% with that. Last time we talked, especially because on the branding standpoint, you were doing something in Neutrogena. Like, how did that go?
Yes. That went well. That actually opened up doors for other opportunities. I've had opportunities with 3-2 Nutrition, with the compression stock company. I've had opportunities with the hand lotion. And, other companies will approach you as a physician, as anyone in healthcare field, because of your expertise. And as you're building your brand, you have to realize that you have an opportunity to say yes or no.
Yes.
Initially, when I first started doing this, I was like, oh, I'll say yes to everything. But then you realize, not necessarily that the brand is bad, but it may not be something that you want to represent.
Right, that fits you.
Who you are.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then Lunch Lane Community, just for full disclosure, Lunch Lane Community, when I started, when we started having a discussion way in the beginning, like, because I asked her, right? Like, I asked her, like, oh, so what do you like, how do you see yourself? Like, because it's very difficult to brand yourself if you don't visually see it. So we saw her as in Lunch Lane Community. If you look at a profile pic, she's a very pretty woman, right? So it was very easy. Like I said, oh, and then we stalked. We did a lot of stalking, right, before we like went out, and like so we were. And in fact, we still stalk to this day. So if you're on IG, we probably stalk you. We probably share your profile to each other because everything's about modeling, right? Like I said, we're not here to invent no wheel. Right, we're here to see like, oh, what is someone doing? Oh, I see what they're doing, and then we're just gonna model that, and we're gonna look better doing it, and that's typically how we go about doing our things. So it was very easy, right, for us to like make adjustments for her and say, oh no, I need you to do. Again, we're not gonna talk about all the things because again, it ain't y'all business, right? But like we definitely like set out a goal, and it was very interesting to see the reaction that we got as quickly as we got it, which lets us know we're going in the right direction. I stressed to her enough, and this is more of her, Dr. Williams, being the doctor, right? Most doctors are so type A. Right, they got to be perfect, got to be like got to be model, run line ready, right? And if we get straight, in fact, Lunch Lane Community, when you follow her, I want you to put on a comment, post more, right? Because that's why that's one of my things. Yes. Every time I get to this section here, I say, you need to post more. Now she be posting in her stories. I know she posts in stories because I get a notification every time she does it. So I see the stories be happening, and I be looking for the profile pics, and she be lacking on there, right? So we just got to get her to post more, right? I told her like every picture don't got to be model like. We already know she looks good, right? We just go ahead, just post looking crazy when you go into rheumatology. Like we want to see that too, right? Because as a brand, right, you have to, what usually makes people fall in love with a brand and follow a brand is that they've been able to see multiple sides of that brand, right? So they've been able to see like, all right, oh, look, this side here. Oh, I love that side here. Oh, that side. Like they've been able to see all of that. So they appreciate it more. So we don't want to give them all of that top of the line stuff because we want them to appreciate the top of the line. Because once you start giving them nothing but top of the line, then they stop appreciating. And we don't want them to not appreciate that.
True. No, absolutely.
Like literally every time we get this section, I say like, "Oh, I wish you would post more."
I know. I need to have a contract with someone and just be like, "I promise you, I'm gonna do this, this, and this." I mean, it's difficult. It's difficult, but yes, I need to do better. I need to do better and sit down and, come up with some, I don't say content because we kind of have started to narrow down the target audience, but yeah.
Well, remember, and of course, we'll give this free nugget out to the member. You are the content, right? Like, so you going to class is the content, right? You shopping at Target is the content, right? You go, like, you're the content. You make it, right? Like, no one defines to us what content is. We just say what content is. We just say like, oh no, right. I want to. Like I think today I posted a picture. I took my family, all of my younger siblings and my children to Outback, right? So I posted that, right? And because I was like, say, you know what? I think you guys should delve into that. And then of course the likes happen, right? So we kind of define that aspect, especially in the brand. Like we allow ourselves to define. And then what happens is you don't get restricted, right? Because sometimes if you choose a specific way, like, oh, I'm going to only post when I'm in school, then what happens when you're not in school? Then you never post, right? So then you're literally like forced to go back to school to post something in the library. We don't want that, right? We want you to be able to post in front of your crib, post at the restaurant, post in the store, post at school. We want you to be as open as possible. And so what I will say, we'll give you one little tip, especially for those who may be interested in, especially from an Instagram standpoint or just Facebook, whatever, right? Is you should have kind of like 4 or 5 different models, right? Where you kind of say, like, for example, for those who follow me on Instagram at Dr. Barry Pierre, right? Like I have Dr. Barry the family person, right? So you'll see family photos. Dr. Barry, the program director, you'll see me posting about program director stuff. Dr. Barry, the entrepreneur stuff, you'll see me posting about entrepreneur related stuff. And then Dr. Barry, the physician, right? So you'll see me posting about strictly like health related things, right? Like, so majority of my posts will center around those 4 pillars, right? So then that allows me to post whatever I want in those 4 pillars, right? Like, yeah, so I'm quote unquote restricting myself as far as the pillars are concerned, but because I have 4 different pillars, I'm allowed to expand and like, kind of go in different ways. So definitely for, the Lunch Learning community listeners who, want to help grow their brain, especially on Instagram, that is definitely a way to do it. And really, again, the goal is post more, and post more.
Absolutely. And I mean, we go back to doing our IG lives, but those are fun.
Yes. I love IG Live. I love it. But no, we've been slacking. So, we got to apologize to IG because we definitely was supposed to give them one, I think like last month or something. Like we'll take care of that.
Yeah. No, we will definitely do that and get back onto doing that.
Perfect. So we are getting to the end. First of all, Lunch Learning community members, I want to really thank you guys for kind of rocking with us during this section, right? And again, Lunch Learning community members, this is literally how we be talking. It literally kind of goes into this length and this talking because we really have to because again, when you have a true relationship, right, with your mentee, with your mentor, right, like these conversations are very easy. Like there's nothing you got to pull out. You're not dragging. Like it's very easy to kind of come out and open and kind of talk because. Once you care for that person, right, and you care for that person's well-being, right, you're going to make sure you do everything you can to get them in that right position. So again, Lunch Learning community members, thank you for rocking with us. This things we're going on about almost an hour and a half or something like that. So definitely thank you for again, honestly, this isn't like us long talking just for this podcast. Like this is literally how our sessions go.
Right. No, absolutely. Like I mean, we can talk for days.
Yeah. We can. Oh, no, most definitely. Like, well, sometimes we will get stuck. Sometimes we'll get stuck on one of the sessions, and we'll just the majority of the time just stuck on that one section. Because again, really, we're trying to hit home that level of importance. Making sure the whole person is taken care of. So that's definitely a big thing for us. So, Dr. Brooke, please tell people where they can find you, stalk you. Love you. Let's let people know. Let the people know how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, most certainly. You can definitely follow me on Instagram. That's Dr. Brooke Ashlyn. That's DrBrookEAshlynn, as in Brooklyn. On Instagram, you can follow me on Facebook. It's still the same handle, Dr. Brooke Ashlyn. DO, and feel free to always email me as well, dr.brookeashlyn@gmail.com. And of course, Dr. Pierre will post my contact information. So anyone who has any questions, concerns, or just, wants to chat, feel free to reach out.
Perfect. Like I said, again, thank you for, being a willing participant and, really, telling your story live, right, and telling your story out for the world for many people to hear. But again, I think it's so important, and a lot of times when we don't see what a good model of of this type of relationship is, right, we don't know how to look for it, right. So again, thank you for allowing yourself to be open for our Lunch and Learn listeners.
No, thank you for having me. It's been a great session, and you really. Every time we talk, I'm like, oh, yeah, I do need to be doing that. So this is great. Puts it all out on the table. We hope, a lot of times you try to hide stuff, but it's, we put this all out on the table. So it's much needed. I really appreciate you, and thank you for continuing to work with me.
Perfect. And Lunch Learning community members, we will see you guys next week again. Like always, subscribe to the podcast, 5 stars, follow Dr. Brooke on all of her social media platforms. Like I said, it will be, do not spam her email. Don't do that. But please follow her, show support. And again, thank you. Thank you for getting to the end of the show. I am your host, Dr. Barry Pierre, host of the Lunch Learn with Dr. Barry. And this is another amazing episode that we like to bring to you week after week on betterment of empowering yourself for better health today. If you have not had a chance, please go ahead and subscribe to the show. If this is your first time listening, if you already listened and you've already subscribed, make sure to leave me a 5-star review, because your support is absolutely important in keeping the show moving as it is. And if you have not had a chance and you want to check out today's show notes, always head over to lunchlearnpod.com. That is lunchlearnpod, all in one word, .com, and you can get the access to my show notes for every single episode, but especially the one you just listened to. And I'm going to see you guys next week. You guys be blessed. Bye.